all of our high profile campaigns wherein we've challenged world leaders to go vegan, whether it's to enhance the health of their country or fight climate change or end pandemics or support small scale farmers, have been hugely successful in that they've helped to educate millions of people around the world about the connection between our food and the biggest issues of our time, those being factory farming and the ecological damage that it causes, pandemics, climate change, poor health epidemics. All of these things can be fought and remedied with a vegan lifestyle or a plant-based food system. And we've been able to educate people, which is a huge part of what we've done. We've also been able to get conversations happening in the mainstream. All of our campaigns generate a lot of mainstream media coverage. They've given us opportunities to talk on TV, on radio, to appear in, articles like the New York Times and El País, which is one of the biggest Spanish-spoken newspapers in the world. So, they've helped us reach people in multiple ways.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
Our guest today is Naomi Alicia-Hallum. She is the CEO of Generation Vegan, a global nonprofit known for its powerful campaigns promoting plant-based living to tackle climate change, animal cruelty, food injustice, and health issues. With over 7 years of experience in nonprofit leadership, Naomi combines expertise in digital marketing, fundraising, and organizational growth to drive real change. She's helped Generation Vegan deliver over 360,000 vegan meals worldwide and support 160,000 people transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle. Naomi's work has earned international attention, including offering $1 million to world leaders to go vegan for a month. She also hosts the podcast Raising Gen V, where she explores plant-based parenting and compassionate living. Passionate about creating a more sustainable, kinder world, Naomi leads with a vision that aligns values with action. Naomi, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Cheryl. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with telling us a little bit how your vegan journey began?
Yeah, sure. I guess my first foray into plant-based was around the age of 10 or 11, actually, so very young. I grew up in a rural farming community in the northwest of England. Unlike most people, I actually grew up in close proximity to sheep and cows and farmed animals. And as most kids do, I loved those animals. I loved being able to pet and feed these farmed animals. So as soon as I basically understood where my pork chops and my bacon and my sausages were coming from, I did what I think most children would do and kind of questioned if that's what I wanted to eat. My mum at the time was hoping it would just be a short-lived phase, I think. So she said, all right, I'll support your vegetarianism. But make sure you eat lots of cheese and eggs because I want you to get your calcium and your protein. So without understanding the health benefits of going plant-based, I went, vegetarian for ethical reasons, age 10. And then it was a solid 20 years before I learned about the harms of the egg, dairy, and sort of animal exploitation industries that were out there. That all came about because I read an article in The Guardian where a journalist had decided to give up, I think it was dairy for a month because she'd watched a film called Cowspiracy. So I think that documentary name stuck in my mind. And sure enough, next time I was browsing Netflix for something to watch, I saw Cowspiracy and I thought, oh, okay, this might be interesting. And I watched that, and that was it, really. I thought, wow, all these years I've been vegetarian, believing that this is what truly aligns with my values. And it turns out that I was living a life that wasn't in accordance with my values at all because I was still consuming products that were bad for me, bad for the planet, bad for animals. So my husband and I at the same time decided to cut all animal products out of our diets. We challenged ourselves to, one of those 30-day programs, not thinking we'd reach the end of it. But we did, and yeah, that was sort of 8, 9 years ago now. No, yeah, 9 years ago. So yeah, vegan ever since, and have a child who is vegan and has never eaten an animal product in her life, and I'm very envious of her.
As am I. I love the fact that you were raised around animals because so many of us aren't, other than our cats and our dogs. So, do you think that people that don't have that opportunity benefit when they go visit a sanctuary?
Yeah, I do absolutely. I think we have this kind of notion that farmed animals, pigs, chickens, cows, geese, rabbits, whatever it is, are different from our companion animals in some way. Maybe they're not as affectionate or intelligent. But as soon as you meet a farmed animal, you realize that that's just not the case. A pig is just like a dog, a cow is just like a cat. They love affection. They purr when you pet them. They roll over for belly rubs. They're incredibly smart. They're incredibly sensitive. So I think, yes, meeting a farmed animal is important because you realize there's no fundamental difference. And so if you wouldn't want something done to your dog, you really shouldn't want it done to any other species of animal either.
Absolutely. So, tell us how you came to be with Generation Vegan.
Well, back then, when I became vegan, I was working and had been working for a long time in corporate marketing and events. But I think for most vegans, when you discover that path, it becomes far more than just like about what you eat. It becomes really important to you on many levels. So pretty soon I was thinking, why am I using my skills for all of this corporate stuff when I could be using them to help animals that are suffering? So yeah, I was kind of looking for work. It's a very hard movement to break into, not because
Hmm.
people aren't looking for, more activists to work alongside them, but because we're a small movement and there's not a lot of opportunities and there's not a lot of funders. So yeah, my first foray was basically volunteering. I would volunteer marketing services to animal charity evaluators, who are a great
Oh,
organization.
yes.
I at the time was living in Virginia Beach, which is very close to Peter's headquarters. So I would go and volunteer there. And I would contribute blogs on plant-based nutrition to Veganuary. And it's just through kind of putting myself out there that I eventually met Matthew Glover and Jane Land, who were the founders of Veganuary. At a really pivotal time, they were looking for a way to campaign for farmed animals in a way that would penetrate mainstream media and change society's perceptions. And they had an idea for a campaign group that would be called Million Dollar Vegan. And they were looking for somebody to, yeah, lead the marketing and campaigning efforts in the US. And I was like, pick me. So, yeah, I started working with Million Dollar Vegan right at its formation in 2018. And we evolved what was just a campaign group into Gen V, the global nonprofit that we are today.
Beautiful. I very much love your website. I'm looking at it now, and I love the tagline that says Unite, Disrupt, and Transform. And I'm wondering, did you pick those words in order for a particular reason?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's very hard to rebrand, as anyone going through one would know. And yes, we did. We worked long and hard to think about what we wanted to achieve. And that was unity of people who have strong values. Whether those values are, perfectly aligned or slightly different, I think we can all come together on the shared value of wanting to create a better world for people, for animals, and to protect our natural world and resources. So we wanted to unite anybody who wants to see a better tomorrow. We want to disrupt what is a very broken and systemically cruel system, and that is industrialized animal agriculture specifically. And
Hmm.
we want to transform the food system in the world into a place that is kind and thoughtful and sustainable and healthy and doesn't exploit people or animals. So yeah.
Well, I noticed that you don't shy away from the cold, hard truths on your website, which I appreciate because while I understand that it may feel uncomfortable for some people, the animals are going through it as we speak. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at your website and it starts with approximately 80 billion land animals and trillions of fish are slaughtered for food every year. And then you go over each topic. And I think that's very important because it seems as though people want to forget where their milk came from, why milk happens,
Yeah.
about eggs, about, we're all upset right now about the fact that eggs are expensive, but, they're not expensive enough. So I wonder if, maybe we should just go over each, category here. Because right now it says 29 trillion on your US animal kill clock.
Hmm.
So it talks about you talk about the six secrets, and they're not secrets, but sometimes we know about them and then we choose not to know about them.
I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of turning our eyes away from things that things that are hard to see, but also things that we feel helpless about. I think I've certainly come across in
Mm.
my career a lot of people who care passionately but feel helpless. They feel like this problem is beyond them, kind of like with climate change, and that their individual choices will make no difference. And I think if people understood the power of one, our individual choices, and two, the idea of uniting, the idea of one plus one plus one plus one equals many who can change things. Um, I think if we can believe in our own power a little bit more, then we might eventually see a shift in people and the directions they look in and the things that they do.
Well, if this doesn't work, then I know you also cover health because so many of us are focused on our health.
Mhm.
And I love how your website goes over each different type of issue that are easily remedied by a plant-based diet.
Mhm.
So do you find that to be a more easy entree?
Well, I mean, you are right that people do care about their own well-being more than that of others, generally speaking, and that's okay. And if people want to come to veganism for their own reasons, for their own health reasons, that's okay too. I think it's a great gateway into what veganism is, which is, more of a philosophical approach to living. But it still seems to be a very dominant perspective that plant-based diets are not as nutritionally adequate as an omnivorous diet. And so I can't emphasize enough. It's not my opinion
Hmm.
or some sort of vegan propaganda. It is actually a fact that there is no nutrient bar B12 that cannot be obtained from a plant-based diet. What a lot of people also don't know is that B12 is not naturally found in an animal-based diet either. It's coming to us as a supplement, no matter where we get it from or whom we get it from, because it's, something that's found in soil. So either it's being injected into animals and we're getting it that way, or it's being added as a fortified nutrient to our soy milk or our nutritional yeast or a multivitamin. And other than that, we can get everything the body needs to thrive on a plant-based diet. Um, and not with a ton of planning either. It's not a case of I have to eat very meticulously and weigh up my kale and make sure I'm getting enough of this, that, and the other. It's actually a lot more straightforward than people realize, as long as you're eating a wide variety of plant-based foods. And there is a very wide variety of them out there, far wider
Absolutely.
variety than there are in the animal-based food kingdom. Then yeah, you're going to be getting enough calories and enough nutrients, and you're definitely going to be getting enough protein, which I think is the big worry of most people.
And yet nobody goes to the hospital because they didn't get enough protein. So this seems to be a story that we are told and then we continue to tell ourselves. And that's why I think what you're doing is so important because you have a lot of campaigning out there. So let's talk a little bit about some of your more effective campaigns and what you're trying to specifically achieve.
Hmm. I mean, when we started out, we were a campaign group that wanted to hold world leaders accountable for
Hmm.
living by example. I think that's what world leaders should be doing, particularly if Like in Pope Francis's case, you talk about how factory farming is an abomination and how we have to fight climate change and we have to work together on these major issues of our time. And yet you're still eating beef tacos, which drive climate change and support factory farming. So we wanted to kind of hold world leaders to account a little bit, but also use that platform, that high profile platform, to explain why food is connected with these big issues.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Naomi Hallum of Generation V, and this is Better Life for Animals. Naomi, can you give us some examples of your most effective campaigns?
I mean, campaigns that we do take many, many forms. All of our high profile campaigns wherein we've challenged world leaders to go vegan, whether it's to enhance the health of their country or fight climate change or end pandemics or support small scale farmers, have been hugely successful in that they've helped to educate millions of people around the world about the connection between our food and the biggest issues of our time, those being factory farming and the ecological damage that it causes, pandemics, climate change, poor health epidemics. All of these things can be fought and remedied with a vegan lifestyle or a plant-based food system. And yeah, we've been able to educate people, which is a huge part of what we've done. We've also been able to get conversations happening in the mainstream. All of our campaigns generate a lot of mainstream media coverage. They've given us opportunities to talk on TV, on radio, to appear in, articles like the New York Times, and El País, which is one of the biggest Spanish-spoken newspapers in the world. So yeah, they've helped us reach people in multiple ways. And at the same time, we've done huge campaigns on social media. Our social media efforts reach, in excess of 50 million people a quarter. So we're always out there educating, planting seeds, and giving people ideas and ways in which they can reduce their impact, either by switching out the odd meat-based meal with a plant-based alternative, trying to eat plant-based certain days of the week, or going fully plant-based. We have free programs on our website to help people to do that once they've found their reason for doing so, and the reasons are many.
So are you able to then notice this landed, this isn't landing so much, this one, that we're going to target this group with that? You've got all the algorithms in place in order to be able to be the most effective for your target audience?
Well, algorithms are not controlled by us, unfortunately. Algorithms are controlled by social media. And the problem with algorithms is actually that they tend to work against us when it comes to breaking the echo chamber. This is not a problem that's unique to Generation Vegan. This is a problem that anybody advocating a non-mainstream idea is up against. So one of the biggest challenges that we faced and all advocates face is getting our message to people who don't already agree with us, right? That's really difficult. And in order to do that, you have to work and collaborate with groups and individuals who are not already vegan. You have to put yourself into uncomfortable positions and, unusual spaces. And you have to try and generate attention for issues that, reaches the mainstream. And all of that is really tricky to do because, and let's just talk about algorithms as an example of this, and there are many. As soon as you watch a vegan video and you engage with that video on social media, whether it's a like, a comment, a share, the algorithm will then feed you more of the same because it knows what you're going to engage with and it makes money from engagement. So, what tends to happen is that people who are engaging with these videos are already vegan or already aligned. And so they'll see a lot more vegan videos. And because they're being fed this content, other people are not seeing it. Um, what omnivores will tend to do is they'll tend to observe but not engage with because they are usually on the fence, not ready, intimidated by the content. It's very difficult to create content in a way that engages non-vegan or non-aligned audiences. That's why shares are very, very important. You know, if every vegan didn't just like a piece of content when they saw it, but they shared it with their family and their networks, that's how you break the echo chamber. Um, so yeah, I think it's very easy for us to say, yeah, we get a lot of likes and we get a lot of reach, so that's really good. But it's those shares, those comments from non-vegans that are so hard to get, but so valuable in social media marketing that we're really striving to achieve. And, you know, that takes a lot more strategically than just posting a video. It takes consistent effort and coalition building and partnering and being creative and thinking outside the box. It's a constant struggle. And I would say now more than ever because veganism is actually waning in popularity and has been for some years. Um, and that's in large part to misinformation campaigns, which have been run by the meat and dairy industry. So we're fighting an uphill battle and always trying to kind of regroup and assess what the best strategy is for making progress.
I've heard that as well. And that's why I feel like, even though it may feel like there's a lot of us in this space, there are very few. There are not enough. So
Yeah.
the more voices we have, the better. And as you said, the more shares,
Mhm.
the more entrees for others to join us.
Yeah.
I am also interested in that you use so many different approaches on your website and in your work, and you don't stop at recipes. You have here's 10 easy recipes because so many people go, okay, I'm open. What do I eat? You
Mm.
know. So
Yeah.
I like that you've got options on your website. You guys should all check it out because it's like here's 10 recipes. And you also, I've heard this. I've heard it. I heard it just yesterday from my own husband about how, well, we would try it, but it's too expensive. And, I've heard you talk about this. Yes, if you're going to a fine dining experience, it can be expensive, but it's no more expensive than the alternative. And
Actually proven to be cheaper. Multiple studies have been done, and it's actually significantly cheaper to live on a plant-based diet as long as you're not buying lots of, alternative products.
right,
I think this common misconception that people think they have to, when they go vegan, they have to buy mock meats and they have to buy fancy cashew cheeses, right? They have
right,
these things. These things are a luxury, just as they are in the meat eating world. Nobody needs these things. We can get our protein from plants. We can get our calcium from plants. We can get our omega-3s from plants. We can get everything we need from plants without buying these other products. So if we keep things plant-based and basic, it's much cheaper. It's perfectly healthy. And then, yeah, if you want to treat yourself by going to a vegan restaurant or buying a vegan mushroom steak, you can, but you don't have to.
right. I love also how you brought up the Pope because for me, this is all about, it's the compassion piece. It's all about why would you want to do that to another animal? So I love how you also talk about spirituality and how all the different religions, if you look at them, have compassion as a component. And I think sometimes, once again, the verbiage out there, the stories are overlooking that, or they're making an exception for themselves. So
Yeah.
I wonder, has that been an effective entree into some people's hearts?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually written, I would say, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of blogs, which have been published on our website over the years. And to this day, one of our top 10 blogs is What Does the Bible Say About Eating?
Ah,
People seem to really find that very interesting and engaging. And I don't know if you've seen the film Christspiracy
I
yet.
have.
But again, a very compelling film for anybody of any religion to watch, and helping to promote that film. And there's another film as well, Prayer for Compassion, which is a really, really great film about religion and how it ties into veganism. So there's a lot of, I mean, I could go on all day about the resources out there that there are and the films that are out there to watch about religion and our relationship with animals in the natural world. But yeah, I mean, there's endlessly strong arguments for eating vegan, irrespective of religion or belief system. And there's a question we often ask as well is what would Jesus do? It's a question asked by the Christspiracy documentary makers, and it was a question asked by us during the Pope campaign. You know, today 99% of all animal products that people consume in the US come from factory farms, and America happens to also be the most religious, progressive nation in the world. What would Jesus think about factory farms, do we think? Since there's nothing natural or humane about them, and they're, driving environmental racism in underserved communities, and they're polluting our ecosystem, and they're exploiting workers and migrants, and they drive all of these issues. So a good question to ask is, what would Jesus think of these systems, this factory farming model? And if he wouldn't approve, and you're a person of religion, then really maybe you should consider whether you should be funding them with your dollar.
Interesting about religion, because even if you don't consider yourself a religious person, it is baked into culture, and you don't even know that you are buying into a story that, isn't even consciously, what you think you believe.
Yeah.
So I wonder, because you mentioned it, and I agree with you. It's like we've taken a dip. We're not done. I know we're gonna rise back up, but the movement has taken a hit. So I think about, and I'm sure you do too. It's like, okay, so what's going to be the most effective way to get people's attention, without turning them away? And I would not have thought it was religion, but I'm starting to think that there's a very powerful pull there.
There's a lot of scope, I will say, depending on demographic, state, country, culture. There is a different reason that resonates with everybody. And from what we've seen, there's no one reason that resonates more with others. It just what group you're looking at. In the UK, for example, data suggests that very strongly the ethical argument is the strongest one at the moment. And the religious argument hasn't had a lot of traction. That's quite different in the US. People seem to be much more driven by health reasons and religious reasons. So it very much depends. And I know that because we work in multiple countries and our audiences respond very differently to very different types of information and content in all of those regions. And that's why Gen V has never really picked one argument to work with. We are kind of putting the arguments out there and letting individuals choose what matters to them. And if what human rights matter to a lot of people more than anything. We get this comment all the time, like, what about people? What about the people first? Well, the people their rights are very much tied into animal rights. And so there's a lot of intersection between those issues. And that's why we have a 7-day Vegan for Humanity challenge, right? Where you can learn all about the relationship between human rights and animal rights and how they intersect while trying a plant-based diet for a week with our, meal plans and guidelines. So I always say to people, choose your why, do your own research, find out what matters to you more, because if your heart is not in it, you won't stick with it. And this is a big problem. 87% of people who go vegan are not still vegan a year later. And that research was done from 5 years of data testing by Fauna-Lytics. And the reason is because they're choosing a wrong reason. They're letting somebody else dictate the reason why they should go vegan rather than choosing what matters most to them. Because if it doesn't matter to you why you're vegan, if you're just doing it for a diet, if you're just doing it to maybe lose some weight or clear up your skin, you're not going to sustain it. What allows us to sustain this lifestyle is a deep-seated passion for our reason why we chose to start it in the first place.
That's very well put. Find your reason why and don't just rush into it, because we want you to be with us a year and 5 years and beyond.
Yeah.
And to help others and to have others want to invite them in, as opposed to feel like this is a restrictive diet, because this is not a restrictive way of living, not at all. And I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, Naomi. And I wonder, what does 2025 look for you like for you? Are you working on something specifically?
Yeah, we're working on some big campaigns that aim to meet people where they're at in 2025. This kind of sort of vegan recidivism that we're seeing, I think it comes from people feeling that they can't sustain a fully vegan diet. People say it to me all the time, like, oh, I was vegan, but then, I fell off the wagon because I can't give up cheese or I can't give up eggs. And I want people to know that's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. Nobody in the world is perfect at everything they want to be perfect at, right?
Right.
But it's good to keep trying and not to see one setback as an ultimate defeat. So I want people who think that veganism is extreme to take a step back and say, okay, well, then let's not talk about veganism. Let's talk about what you don't agree with, that we can all agree on. One of the strongest arguments I think that we have for getting people to think about how they eat and spend their money is asking people, what do you think of factory farming? Because data suggests that the vast majority of Americans are against factory farming and would like to see an end to it. The same majority don't realize how their money props up that industry and enables it to keep going and to keep pushing small scale farmers out of business. Most meat eaters think the vegans are the enemy of small farmers. The real enemy of farmers, of our ecology, of human rights and animal rights is factory farming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's really important to find out where we all agree. And I think the factory farming is a really good example of where we can all agree it's wrong and it has to end. And then we can move forward and talk about how we can bring this terrible system to an end. First off, why does factory farming exist? It exists because we now consume so much more meat and dairy than we did 50 years ago that we need intensive systems in order to meet demand. So therefore, if demand is reduced, we can reduce the need for factory farms. I don't know what stronger argument there could be for people thinking about what they eat and trying to reduce. And the more somebody reduces, the more they discover what's on the other side, right? Every time somebody tries a vegan meal that's really great, they go, wow, I thought you vegans just ate salad. This is actually quite good. So I think it's trying to, instead of asking people to change everything all at once, there's a real scope for success if we meet people where they're at and try and get them to come in our direction one step at a time. So that's for me what we'll be focusing more on in 2025, campaigns that help people to understand the problem with factory farming and how they can be part of the solution for it.
Just one more question. Do you think that these intense different climate issues that we're having, floods, fires, there's a heat wave in northern parts of our country, do you think that people are making a connection there?
I actually think climate change is a really polarizing issue.
Yeah.
I think there's people that understand climate change is the real thing, but feel like they're helpless to stop it, that it's going to happen no matter what they do, whether they eat their burgers or not. And I think there's a significant portion of the population that think climate change is a hoax and that these extreme weather occurrences are just part of the evolution of our planet. So although in the past Gen V has used the climate change argument to try to persuade people to go vegan, I'm not seeing it having a lot of success because it only appeals to quite a small demographic of people who, one, believe in climate change, and two, believe that they can do something about it by changing their diets. And that's a small portion of the population, unfortunately. So although the argument is strong as a persuasive tactic, I'm dubious about it.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing, Naomi, is that people, when they feel powerless, they don't act.
Yes.
So we need to stick with things that one little change that each of us can make, be
Yes.
it our diet, for compassion, for spirituality, for our health, and then giving options, easy, affordable options on here's what you can do. And then they feel empowered. And with a little bit of success, then they can say, look at me, I have saved a handful of animals this month. And that's
Right.
something, right?
I think, yes, Cheryl, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That is the crux of it for me. When people feel overwhelmed by what you're asking of them or the state of the world or what they're seeing, they actually become powerless. We're like, for want of a more vegan term, a deer in the headlights.
Right.
Um, so I think trying to help people to realize that a little goes a long way, and even micro changes are worth doing, and see where that takes you. That's a really good strategy, because the all or nothing one is not getting us the impact that we need to see for animals.
Well said, Naomi. Tell us how we can find you and how we can support you.
You can find us everywhere. We are Gen V, which is short for Generation Vegan, and we are at genv.org. If you go to our website, you can pick what country you're coming from or what language you want to see us in. We're available in 10 languages and operate in 4 major regions. We have lots of social media channels depending on your cultural preference or language. For English, it's GenV_ENG on Instagram. But if you type in Generation Vegan, you'll see all the pages come up. We're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. You can find us anywhere. So just go into Google, type in Gen V or Generation Vegan, and you'll see us there. You can't get away from us, really. In terms of support, as I said, what's really important to us is getting outside of the echo chamber. So the best way anyone can support Gen V and the farmed animals we are fighting for is to share our content with your networks. Share it, send it to people, send people our blogs, get them to understand why we're fighting this fight. Help us to do that, and you'll have done a great service.
A wonderful, actionable step. Thank you so much, Naomi. This has been Cheryl Moss, and I'm with Better Life for Animals. And if you have enjoyed this podcast, please like us, as it will help us to create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.